Even though you're absolute trash, you're a pathetic moron of your own company who got recently demoted. And you can't rizz up any baddies. The Demon King has taken pity on you and summoned you to do his bidding. That's how Uchimura Denosuke, a trash salaryman, got his quick start at the Demon King's palace. Pathetic as he is with no powers, the Demon King tasks him with several missions to strengthen their army. Do you think someone as dumb as him can accomplish anything? You're about to find out, so don't skip out anything in the video. In the court of the Demon King, he summons forth the 4 heavenly kings, the generals of the demon army. Sylphid, Almendra, and Gnome are 3 of the Demon King's most powerful forces. Finally, the 4th heavenly king is someone from beyond their realm, a man that he would summon into their world as the demon overlord. The mist clears, and only one lowly salaryman is waiting. Uchimura Denosuke is deemed the regional manager of the overseas, when he's really just your average 9-to-5 employee. The Emperor of Demons declares that he has witnessed the human's abilities in his world, which is why he readily wants to make him a part of his army. Uchimura is out losing his mind, deconstructing the fuss he has just become a part of. He's just a typical salaryman in Japan, who was working his way to the top as a corporate slave. The guy was having a bad day in demotion, and was supposed to be sent abroad. He did his best to recover his old job, but in the end, Uchimura's fate came to an end by an old lady who ran over him. Saddest ending ever, in my opinion. That's how he arrived in this strange-looking world with a Demon King. The man is welcomed to the Demon Palace and questions how the Demon King knows of his name. The Demon King declares that he will become the 4th heavenly king. Uchimura still doesn't know why a demoted trash salaryman is chosen as the Demon King's envoy. The Demon King reads his mind and answers his questions promptly. The Demon King reads Uchimura's resume, which astonishes him, because this is probably the only Demon King who has ever shown such dedication. The Demon King considered him the perfect candidate for the title of the 4th Demon King, while Uchimura was struggling with the thought of joining the demon army. He wasn't prepared for a job opportunity in a completely different universe. Uchimura is told that he will be granted the highest benefits, a salary, and authority that is equal to the board of directors in his world. Uchimura is shocked to learn of the promises, especially when he hears that he will have his own office to work with. The Demon King allows him to refuse and return to his world, which an evil villain wouldn't do ordinarily. The Demon King orders him to submit and accept his demons. Uchimura is forced to contemplate and acknowledge the benefits he would receive. He remembers his hard-working and stressful life in his previous world, especially the demotion he received. Faced with his low self-esteem, Uchimura downplays himself as a garbage employee who is incapable of running an entire army of demons. The Demon King advises him to ignore his boss's Yap Festival and gives him some David Goggins motivation. The Demon King confesses that he wants Uchimura, of all people, and it seems like he's admitting to a high school crush right now. Anyway, the Demon King affirms that he chose Uchimura for a reason, and tells him to choose between working under him or becoming recognized as a servant of the Demon Lord. Uchimura struggles with an answer while Almendra intervenes in the conversation. She claims the pathetic human doesn't have much to offer as a king. She strongly objects to the decision, making Uchimura sulk even more. For this objection, the Demon King wishes to test Uchimura's capabilities. The Demon King claims that Uchimura will undergo a trial that will become the test of his true abilities. Uchimura tries to interject by stating that he doesn't have any abilities. Almendra is more than ready and charges a furious attack. She wants to see if this pathetic human can block her death kick. Uchimura is sure he will die, but the Demon King intervenes in their battle and stops the fight. The Demon King shuns her for acting hasty. As for Uchimura, he passed out right where he was standing because of shock. Almendra is unimpressed because he's just a regular old human at the end of the day. Almendra asks if he can use any powers, but the Demon King states otherwise. Almendra acts like a salty beach and claims that choosing a regular human for such an important role is unacceptable. The Demon King's army is made of evil spirits with magical powers that could destroy anyone. She thinks Uchimura is so weak, he won't survive any of them. The Demon King argues that Uchimura lacks physical prowess, but is still quite powerful. Uchimura wakes up from his nap and immediately begins crying. He doesn't want to fight Almendra, especially since they would rip his head off. The Demon King assures him he wasn't summoned for his physical might. He questions what Uchimura did at his previous job. The ordinary human claims that he was sent to a foreign country and met with the local clientele. It was a task of negotiation from another culture. The Demon King decides to put him before a test suitable for his abilities. Uchimura questions the kind of interdimensional exam he would be facing. Ulmundra is assigned as his guard, even though Uchimura is scared of her. Uchimura is bewildered that he has to take part in the entrance exam at all. Knowing that he was a failing employee, Uchimura just can't fathom the Demon King's thought process in selecting him as one of the 4 heavenly kings. He remembers the words of the Demon Emperor and finds motivation in his abilities, because they almost make him want to rise up to his expectations. The Demon King stands before Uchimura, revealing that the demon army is interested in joining forces with numerous races in their territories. Uchimura is tasked to negotiate with foreign races to prove his abilities. In fact, he asks if Ulmundra has yielded any success in her negotiation with the Minotaurs race. The Minotaur are creatures that are part of the demi-human species. The Demon King wants them to join his army, but their negotiations haven't been fruitful so far. The Demon King tasks this average salaryman to negotiate a merger with the Minotaur. Uchimura's negotiation skills will be put under fire through this test, but he thinks he would have a better chance trying to hack Google instead of something like this. Ulmundra thinks that Uchimura will be considered a big shot if he manages to accomplish this task, even though many units have been stomped to the ground in their previous negotiations. Ulmundra glares at the weakling for strolling. Uchimura tries to ask for the specifications for the talks. He makes use of the information he has, even with his flailing confidence. Ulmundra explains that the expansion of the demon army is necessary, which is why they want to merge with various races to increase their powers. Arriving at the location of the Minotaur emissary room, Ulmundra proceeds to open the door. Uchimura is hesitant in approaching the monsters lurking behind, but he hopes to fulfill the Demon Lord's expectations. The door opens to Terius, a gigantic behemoth and the head of the Minotaurs. Uchimura craps his pants because he's dealing with a literal monster who could kill him in seconds. All his motivation to try has just crumbled to dust. Ulmundra notices his cowardly state and begins the negotiations to help him get started. Uchimura is glad that he's got someone who knows her way around things. That is until Ulmundra starts an argument with Terius as they fail to come to terms with each other. Uchimura realizes that Ulmundra has absolutely no idea how to talk to others. Ulmundra retreats and leaves the rest to the regular human. Uchimura is up next, and his opponent is a monstrous behemoth that would probably crush his skull before communicating. Terius addresses the human with his privates, which causes Ulmundra to cause an uproar. Terius is upset and immediately knocks them out of the door. Ulmundra thinks that she did the best she could, even though all she did only piss off the Minotaur. Ulmundra wants to return, but Uchimura spots a pile of garbage. Ulmundra explains that Terius brought a bunch of trash to his entrance to the castle. Ulmundra questions the kind of beast who would carry hay around the area like it's some farmland. However, Uchimura has caught on to something. He wants to have a conversation with Terius a second time. Gathering some of the hay, Uchimura is reminded of the first time he went to the locals abroad. Uchimura had to learn their culture and understand how the people behaved, so that he could negotiate with them. Uchimura is starting to realize that it's the same for this world, and tells Ulmundra that she should throw in the towel quickly. Uchimura shares that the Minotaur behaves just like them, and they're not advancing in communication because of misunderstandings. With an optimistic attitude, Uchimura is ready to negotiate with Terius once more. Ulmundra almost wants to respect the lowly human because of his guts, and finally realizes why the Demon King chose him. Ulmundra asks if he's got some kind of plan to gather piles of trash. Uchimura claims that his goal is to earn the Minotaur's trust. In fact, he's already halfway there, because Terius slipped up a critical hint. Just when it seemed like Uchimura was cooking some god-tier strategy, he chose to focus on a word of least importance. Ulmundra thinks that he's actually lost it now. Ulmundra wonders what Uchimura is capable of doing, even after their first failed attempt at negotiating. She opens the door and discovers that Terius is nowhere to be found. Instead, a mountain of hay rests in his quarters. Uchimura greets her excellent morning, while she's ready to kill him for dirtying their castle. Uchimura claims that Terius is off to sign paperwork for the merger. Ulmundra is surprised that Terius actually agreed to join the Demon King's army. Uchimura claims that he followed the terms in his negotiations. Ulmundra is curious about what he said, because it's impossible for him to agree in one night. Uchimura assures her that Terius is with the Demon Lord, signing the paperwork. When asked how he was able to pull off this feat, Uchimura revealed that he used a simple tactic of knowing what the enemy desired. In fact, that is how Ulmundra failed in her negotiation. Uchimura explains that Terius came to the castle with the intention of the merger because of their lack of resources. The Minotaur desired food supplies to advance their society, however, he was unconvinced after joining the castle. Ulmundra is unsatisfied because they gave him the largest room to stay. Uchimura tells her that the Minotaur loves sleeping on hay, and even though he brought his own hay, it was taken away from him. Almondra realizes that they basically took away the guy's bed, which is why he was unsatisfied. Uchimura confirms that the floor is heavy, which would hurt the Minotaur a great deal because of its size. Almondra questions why Terius didn't reveal this information in the first place. Uchimura thinks that it's because of the hint he dropped. Once again, he brings up the word that clogs Almondra's senses. Uchimura explains that the word means small in Terius language, which is why he was trying to ask for a giant bed. Knowing that his demands weren't being met, the Minotaur thought that his demands were being unappreciated. Almondra is surprised to note that Uchimura can pick up on subtle details. The Demon King pops out of nowhere to confess that it is actually Uchimura's true power. He informs them that the Minotaurs have confirmed the agreement, and thus have become a part of the Demon King's army. Uchimura is happy that he passed the test, while the Demon King announced him as the official 4th Heavenly King. Almondra, on the other hand, has no choice but to accept. Uchimura is told to raise his right arm, which he does. The Demon King bestows upon him a special bracelet, which he deserves because of his rank as the 4th Heavenly King. Almondra shows him the same bracelet, and requests that he raise his right arm. The two of them bump their bracelets together. The flustered girl claims that it's a gesture that symbolizes acceptance as one of their own. Like a typical tsundere, she turns around and states that he still isn't a proper Heavenly King yet. The Demon King reflects that Almondra was supposed to complete the negotiations by herself, but Uchimura's existence has helped support the cause, strengthening their army. He is confident that the human's light will make them even more powerful, and his strength will reach every unit. The Demon King is curious to see his development. Almondra requests Uchimura's assistance on more negotiations, which he happily complies with, as the newest hire of the demon army. Knowing that negotiations with larger companies never worked out quickly, Uchimura's current obstacle is to find himself an appointment against a new class of monsters. 3 hours prior, Uchimura was told that the ogres were required to cooperate with the demon army to develop their powers. The ogres boast significant influence because they rival the demon army in individual strength. So far, getting them to their side has been a difficult task for the demon army. The Demon King highlights Uchimura's success over the Minotaur and wants a similar outcome with the ogres. He officially tasks Uchimura to complete the merger with the ogre tribe. Uchimura gladly accepted at first, but right now, he's facing some real confidence problems. They're met with angry-looking guards, who certainly wouldn't let him pass. Almondra steps up and reveals their official ranks, requesting to speak with their leader. The guards allow them to pass through with ease. Almondra emphasizes that the ogres are in a whole different league compared to the others. Since they're on par with the Demon King's army, it's not an easy task to convince them. Uchimura realizes that this negotiation will be pretty similar to pitching to a company's most significant competitor. Almondra claims that their most difficult challenge will be the king. Ogre, the head of the ogres, is extremely difficult to get through. The mighty ogre sits on his throne and immediately shuts down their greeting before they can even begin. Ogre exercises ironclad authority to the point he doesn't even allow them to move from their spots unless allowed. In response, both Uchimura and Almondra can do nothing but obey his demands. With a sinister grin on his face, Ogre reveals their true purpose of coming here. Almondra and Uchimura flinch because they're surprised, and he already knows their objective. Ogre allows them a chance to speak, but demands that the head of the Demon Lord deliver to him, before entertaining any demands. This pisses off Almondra greatly, who is ready to wreak havoc and throw hands right here. While she's stuck, Uchimura laughs it off and states that they'll think it over upon their return to the Demon King's castle. Saying those words, Uchimura drags Almondra's dumbass out of there. When they arrive outside, she erupts in outrage because of Ogre's attitude towards their liege. Uchimura advises her to calm down, knowing it's precisely what Ogre is looking for. Uchimura claims that the King of Ogres is wise and wants to weaponize a reason to turn down the negotiation. Since he doesn't have any intentions of joining the demon army, Ogre isn't looking to start a war. He wanted to step on Almondra's feelings so that he could blame her for sending a messenger with an attitude. Almondra is annoyed that he insulted their liege, and even though it dramatically offends Uchimura as well, he doesn't want to damage the Demon Lord's reputation. Almondra apologizes, but Uchimura thinks that she's just reacting naturally. Almondra questions what they're going to do next. Suddenly, Ogre's daughter reveals her presence. Oral is looking for a conversation, while Almondra thinks she's here for a fight. Oral begs them to remove her father from the throne. Uchimura questions the meaning behind such a rash idea. Oral reveals that the ogres have an influence on their surrounding tribes, which is why they're all struggling with a poor economy. Uchimura noticed their struggle when he observed the broken armor of the guards outside. He deconstructs the top-down decision-making model of companies, giving its people a rough time. Oral agrees and even advocates for the ogres to join the demon army. However, her tyrant father has no intentions of doing such a thing. Oral reveals that her father suffers from an illness, and while he acts tough, he's lost most of his strength. She thinks that it would harm their kingdom if he suddenly passed. Uchimura acknowledges her feelings, and even advises her to keep such information a secret, as it could lead to a strategic exploit. Oral beams with happiness, seeing an outsider advise her regarding her own mistake. Oral judges that the two of them aren't bad people. She shares a request with Uchimura, begging him to marry her and become the king instead. As one can guess, both Almendra and Uchimura are stunned by this confession. In his second mission to merge the ogres into the demon army, Uchimura struggles with their tyrannical king as well as his daughter. Oral emphasizes the importance of seeking a leader and begs Uchimura to become the next ogre king. Uchimura doesn't want to rush to a sudden decision, especially when it's an outsider. Oral claims that the ogres follow her father, so they only have to get rid of them in order to exploit what's underneath. Oral begs for Uchimura's help, and even though he acknowledges her feelings, Uchimura claims that it wouldn't bring any kind of change, and instead erupt more chaos. Uchimura argues that the idea only looks promising from the surface, but it's a lot more complicated than just that. He knows that people will make hasty decisions when stuck in a corner, leading to more problems. The sad ogre wonders what she should do if her father refuses anyone in his way. Uchimura suggests that there is one way they can slip past him as an audience. However, the task requires Oral's contribution, a vital role that only she can fulfill. A week passes by, and Uchimura appears once more before the throne of the king. This time, it was Ogre who summoned them. He's furious to learn that the surrounding tribes have allied themselves with the demon army. Uchimura's plan is revealed. He tasked Oral to gather the surrounding tribes, merging them under the demon army's control. It's actually the same strategy that Uchimura deployed in his own world, when dealing with a larger company. All he did was sell products to the smaller companies, gaining their support and suffocating their competitors. With the first part of his plan already in action, Uchimura tells the Ogre King that it is the only way for the surrounding tribes to survive. Ogre roars in anger, stating that the land belongs to them. Uchimura is glad because he's forced the king to lose his temper, making him fold in negotiations. Uchimura tells him that they had an official representative of the ogres when dealing with the surrounding tribes. Ogre shouts that he didn't order anything like that. Uchimura gladly welcomes the one responsible, who is revealed to be the Ogre King's very own daughter. Uchimura states that her presence was crucial in convincing the surrounding tribes, simplifying the process. Ogre is in a pinch because he actually loves his daughter and can't succumb to anger when dealing with her. The salaryman truly activated the daughter card here. Uchimura's second part of the plan is proceeding smoothly. Oral tries to convince her father to join the demon army to support her people. Oral outright calls him out for losing his prime strength, and that he requires the support of others. Uchimura extends the invitation to join the demon army as an alliance. He thinks that it is better than merging, as they would become a cooperative team, instead of becoming a part of the demon army itself. Uchimura deployed this strategy to trap Ogre even more, giving him an easy way out at the end. That still works in the interests of the demon army. Ogre is forced to consider his demands, and wishes to provide an official answer after his considerations. He internalizes how his daughter went behind his back to communicate with his enemies. Ogre accepts the change of era and the necessity of the alliance. A few days later, Almendra relays the good news to Uchimura, namely that Ogre has accepted the alliance. She's shocked that Uchimura is dealing with paperwork upon paperwork in his office. Uchimura reveals that the Demon King requires him to pick an aide, but he doesn't really know if any of the applicants would be a good fit for them. Almendra suggests that he go with his gut. Uchimura stares at her for a moment and suggests that she partner up with him. Almendra is flustered by the sudden idea and thinks that their development is happening a little too fast. Uchimura states that he trusts her since they've worked together. Almendra acts prideful but accepts his invitation. Uchimura hears a knock and discovers Oral, who was sent here as part of the alliance. Oral is a massive fan of Uchimura's contribution to advancing the ogre tribe. Meanwhile, Almendra is getting jealous in the background and tells Oral to clean the room instead. Uchimura questions why she decided to trust the human out of nowhere, even though they've never even met each other before. Oral reveals that she simply followed her gut feeling. Hearing those words, Uchimura immediately extends her invitation to become his support staff. He wants the ogre to join his team and, I guess, expand his harem in the different races. Ulmundra, on the other hand, is angry as hell and reconsiders the thought of joining his team. Since Oral used to be a student of diplomacy, she has helped Uchimura greatly, advancing his negotiation process and allowing him to focus on other tasks. However, there is one more that Uchimura is currently struggling with, and that is their running out of supplies. The demon army has controlled more territory than ever, but it has obviously birthed the problem of supplies. Since the population is more excellent than humans, they require more nutrition, which has led to a food shortage. Uchimura feels bitter eating the most common meal prepared by the demon army. He doesn't really like tasteless meals, but Ulmundra seems to pick bland things. Uchimura thought that he would be blessed with meat in this world, but quickly realized that peasants only ate porridge in medieval times. Uchimura can't see himself leading an army with an empty stomach. He desperately wants to eat some meat. Ulmundra takes him to hunt some for themselves. She's been wanting to exterminate a magical beast that takes care of two problems at once. Ulmundra shares that the monster is so strong, it has already devoured 5 orcs. Uchimura is obviously concerned for his health, while Ulmundra claims that in this world, only the strongest survive in a natural setting. Uchimura notes that they've got more problems than ever to solve. Ulmundra shares that the orcs were attacked while gathering mushrooms. She discovers a mushroom and assures him that it isn't poisonous. Suddenly, the giant magical beast makes its timely appearance. Gilgamesh, the consumer of reality, faces Morris and his waifu. Ulmundra claims that the monster is trying to scare them away. She charges ahead with a thunderous kick, bashing the beast into the ground with a single attack. Uchimura realizes that she smartly utilizes the horizon, because boars can't look up quickly. The boar uses debris from the ground to knock her off balance. Ulmundra nearly gets eaten alive, but she dodges and counters the monster. Uchimura judges their situation and compares it to a literal natural disaster. He can't fathom how Ulmundra can keep up with such a strong creature. He doesn't have faith that she can slay this beast with a decisive blow. Uchimura reflects that the animals have weapons to arm themselves in battle. Humans, on the other hand, are different. They don't specifically have parts to injure other creatures, making them fragile. That is the reason weapons were invented, to navigate threats and obstacles beyond their capabilities. Ulmundra is no different than a human in this situation. Uchimura wonders why she didn't bother to bring a weapon here. Ulmundra claims that she is incapable of defeating the monster in her current state, so she decides to show off her true power. A beam of light illuminates her body. Ulmundra's arm transforms into a beast-like weapon. The boar charges to attack her, but Ulmundra catches his speedy assault with a single move. She casually picks up the beast and obliterates the monster, shocking Uchimura's eyes. With the boar defeated, Ulmundra claims that they should feast on their lunch. Facing an interdimensional culture shock, Uchimura stands in shock. With the defeat of the creature, Ulmundra shared the remnants of the beast with the orc village. She allowed them to enjoy the meat they'd always wanted. Uchimura questions if it's even right to allow orcs to eat meat, since this is basically cannibalism. While he's tackling humane concepts, the orcs thank Ulmundra's help and are ready to prepare the cooking process. Ulmundra actually knows how to cook, which is one of her skills. Uchimura is intrigued and wonders what she'll do. Ulmundra intends to burn the creature whole. She lights the monster on fire, panning to roast it at a high temperature. Uchimura thinks she's overdoing it. She serves them freshly roasted magical boar, charred to the point that the food authorities would consider it a health hazard. Uchimura takes a bite out of the meat and nearly dies because of its bitter taste. Instead of food, it seems like he's chewing on rocks. Uchimura's situation is getting worse and worse with the terrible food. He takes matters into his own hands and asks the orcs if they use other species. Since the orcs struggle with gathering salt, Uchimura wonders if it would be a good idea to trade with other countries. He decides to use a tiny amount of salt for his meal. After a series of actions, Uchimura serves a delicious-looking roast boar and mushroom soup. Ulmundra chews on the meat, finding it beyond juicy. The food is unlike anything she's ever tasted. Uchimura volunteers to teach the orcs exactly how to cook the recipe. Ulmundra wonders why a heavenly king is bothering himself with cooking. Uchimura corrects her statement that cooking requires experience and is a commendable process. Ulmundra interprets his words as a way to say that people can't learn to cook on their own. Ulmundra notes that their country is lacking in resources and wealth and unable to grant its people the joys of life. She takes it upon herself to supply them with such resources on behalf of the Demon King. Uchimura agrees with her thoughts, while Ulmundra praises his skills as a human. Olmendra lights up a magical lamp to ward off magical beasts. She explains that this is how magic works, an ability that the demons possess for performing magic. Uchimura inquires if it's a little too much. He thinks that she put herself through so much effort, instead of using a weapon from the start. While he's blurting out his thoughts, Olmendra objects, and tells him that what he said is highly offensive. She entertains his contributions thus far as a capable heavenly king, but reminds him that the world operates differently from how he sees it. She thinks he's just a human at the end of the day, and that his ideas of efficiency are meaningless to a demon. Uchimura tries to remedy the situation, but an angry Olmendra flies off, refusing to protect him. Uchimura thinks he's in serious trouble, having stepped on her feelings. Just when he was getting comfortable around Olmendra, she showed her demonic side. Uchimura whines like a little baby, because he's afraid a magical beast will swallow him in one move. Uchimura reports to the Demon King, who congratulates him on fending off the magical beast. The Demon King talks about Olmendra, who returns by herself and asks if something went wrong. The lowly human raises his head and cries his heart out in his pathetic state. After revealing the matter of their dispute to the king, Uchimura is at odds with the idea of becoming a heavenly king, deeming himself unworthy. The Demon King remembers that his comments offended Olmendra. Uchimura explains that he has absolutely no idea of where he went wrong with his words. The Demon King believes that it is a great chance for Uchimura to make amends. In fact, that's his newest official order from the king himself. Uchimura is shocked that this mission is classified as necessary, despite being a trivial matter among them. The Demon King reads his thoughts and calls him out for his BS thinking. Uchimura ends up accepting the offer, but he still doesn't know what he's supposed to do. The cold words of the demon plague his mind. Uchimura wanted to treat this world just like his previous one, but it appears that it is different from what he thought. Uchimura decides to start from the bottom and addresses the two races. Demi-humans and demons both exist in this world, and the demons look just like elves in appearance, while demi-humans have numerous races and focus on effective strength. However, the people he saw at the castle were all different. The demons and demi-humans are completely opposite in appearance and behavior. Uchimura questions why demons specifically like to show skin, and remember Olmendra's words regarding magic. He sparks a realization, and decides to dive into a magic book he borrowed from the demon castle. Uchimura learns that a strong body is necessary to perform magic, even though he was under the assumption that knowledge of magic is more important. Uchimura is convinced that whoever wrote this book must be Sam Sulek's son, but it is apparently a widely accepted truth. The demons don't actually require a technique to use magic, but rather it's about their ability. A strong body prepares them, and becomes a symbol of status for the demons. This means that having muscles basically affirms the ability to use magic. Thus, Olmendra had every right to become upset with his words when he rejected the thought of magic. In his own world, Uchimura is used to the idea of culture, status, and self-esteem at the forefront of every human interaction. Demons are rather different, since they feel proud of their bodies. Uchimura realizes that Olmendra isn't a horny idiot, but instead, she's just trying to be herself. Uchimura is glad that he was able to obtain this knowledge, except he knows the physical job of convincing Olmendra is more than just difficult. He sulks at having to come up with the idea to apologize to the girl. Uchimura questions if he should compliment her body, but it might backfire, as he'll get called a pervert. Uchimura is at a loss and doesn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Orl is hard at work gathering some firewood. She notices the wicked aura of a demon lurking nearby. It's Olmendra herself, who is upset and thinks that Uchimura literally hates her. Instead of getting angry at him, she's upset and wants to make it up to him. Olmendra sulks, while Orl pours her some herbal tea. She asks about the specifics of the situation. Olmendra is upset that Uchimura didn't admire or praise her body. Orl can't deal with the problems this gal has, and asks if Olmendra is trying to show off her body during the hunt. Since Uchimura didn't acknowledge it, Olmendra lost her temper and acted rashly. Orl thinks that it's Uchimura who messed up in this situation. Olmendra boastfully claims that she wore skimpy clothing and cooked him food, even defeating the boar with her own strength, all for nothing. Orl claims that none of the things she did would have made him like her more. Orl explains that humans and demons have different standards for each other. Since Uchimura is a human, he doesn't prefer showing too much skin. That means he would likely see Olmendra as a pervert. Olmendra lashes out, claiming that she was covering up what was necessary. She crumbles under the realization that she has achieved the opposite effect. Olmendra crushes her head in frustration, begging for Orl's help. Orl remembers an important detail that Uchimura mentioned the first day they started working together. He told her that mistakes are part of the job, but what happens is what you do afterward. He thinks that the answer lies in the type of person you are, and one should only become embarrassed when they can't fix their mistake. From this conversation, Almondra learns that Uchimura isn't the type to get angry over a simple mistake. Orl assures her and tells her to believe in the fourth heavenly king. Almondra decides to rectify her mistake by going out to Uchimura. Almondra manages to catch Uchimura by sheer coincidence. After an awkward moment of silence, both of them confess what they want. The two of them are flustered as Uchimura compliments her body, while Almondra apologizes for behaving like a pervert. Uchimura bows his head and states that he doesn't know much about this world. Almondra values his apology and takes the blame on herself instead. She's the one who acted rashly, leaving him unprotected in the forests. Uchimura jokingly states that he really thought he would die. Uchimura tells Almondra that they've accepted their mistakes and should continue to become good partners. Uchimura is glad that he'll be able to resume work with her, while Almondra misinterprets his words and wonders if Uchimura actually likes her. 2 days later, a bunch of creatures are summoned before the throne of the Demon King. The Demon Lord states that their army has merged with 7 other tribes, leading to a huge expansion in their forces. The Demon Lord accredits Uchimura's powers for bringing forth such a change. For this purpose, Uchimura is rewarded with a magical runestone. The human thanks the Demon Lord for his gift and shares that his partner Almondra was also responsible for helping him on this mission. In fact, he wishes to share the magical runestone with Almondra as if it were some kind of marriage proposal. A flustered, embarrassed, and shocked Almondra roars at him for being a fool. She refuses to accept such a gift in a public place and instead wants Uchimura to give her something in a quiet setting. Uchimura actually didn't know that the runestone represented a symbol of a marriage proposal between 2 partners, so he really is playing out the husband-wife card without knowing. Uchimura's life takes another strange turn. The salaryman who became a heavenly king is now in the confines of a school. Uchimura is surprised to see Almondra, who is apparently supposed to be his classmate. Just when Uchimura is trying to relax, the demon student's outfit throws him off, as it's the most unprofessional thing he's ever seen in class. Uchimura calls her out for wearing an inappropriate outfit for class. She switches the blame on him. Orl is also in class and supports her new teacher. Uchimura is begging for his situation to take a positive turn. That's when he hears the voice of the Demon King. Uchimura is glad that he can seek help from the Demon Lord himself. Apparently not, because the Demon King is dressed in a schoolgirl's outfit, of all things. Uchimura's mind waltzes off because, normally, this dude is supposed to be a CEO or the final boss of a dark fantasy game. Instead, he's just acting like a regular schoolgirl, which confirms that Uchimura has a dream. Almondra yanks his tie and asks if he's eyeing down their star student. Apparently, the Demon King won the school's beauty pageant, yet another cursed discovery that Uchimura wasn't prepared to know. Almondra insists that he pay more attention to her as she's also a student. Uchimura blurts that he's incapable of staring at a student like Almondra. The dude gets his face whacked into the stratosphere and finally wakes up from his dream. When he wakes up, he sees Almondra enjoying wearing his shirt. Almondra gets flustered and angry, chasing after him in the same manner as she did in the dream. Uchimura faces his newest obstacle. All this time, he thought that everything was going well with his accomplishments. However, for some reason, the Demon King has requested a one-on-one match with him. Even though he survived this much, Uchimura is convinced that he'll die today. Before the Demon King even says anything, Uchimura begs like a pathetic little child. He begs to be given a second chance for his faults. The Demon King argues that Uchimura's only annoying fault is that he blames himself too much, and that his achievements are quite befitting of his rank. The Demon King has summoned him for yet another job relating to magic. Uchimura is surprised, because magic isn't his area of expertise. The Demon King wonders if Uchimura has noticed the differences between the demi-humans and the demons. Uchimura states that the demons are capable of incredible magic, and boast a ranking higher than demi-humans. The Demon King mentions that the Demon Army is a diverse organization, which is basically the average American company, and its diverse hires. The Demon King desires to close the social gaps among his army. He tasks Uchimura with discovering a method for the non-magical races to use magic. Uchimura reminds the king that he's incapable of using magic himself, so he really might not be cut out for this mission. The Demon King has already prepared for this objection, and bestows upon him a mystical stone. The powerful runestone glimmers as the Demon King demonstrates its true power. The Demon King explains his forces pour their magical energy into these stones, allowing them to store incredible amounts of mana. Demi-humans, on the other hand, only have a small amount of mana, meaning they could harbor the abilities of the runestones to cast spells, mitigating the gap in their abilities. The Demon King allows Uchimura to do whatever he pleases with the stone to accomplish his objective. In fact, he's even allowed an expert in magic to help answer his concerns. With that said, there is a complication that the king has yet to address. The complication arises in the form of the Heavenly King Sylphid, who is supposed to be Uchimura's partner for the mission. Despite her expertise in magical arts, the Demon King warns Uchimura that Sylphid is a force to be reckoned with. Uchimura catches on that Sylphid has already been told of their mission. He wants to go over and talk to her. Almondra loves his development and is fond of the runestone he gave her. The delusional girl is convinced that the human is trying to score with her. Uchimura arrives in front of Sylphid's office and politely knocks. The door opens and an unknown woman greets him. Uchimura requests for Sylphid. Belinda introduces herself as her assistant and reveals that Sylphid is out for the time being. Uchimura is shocked because the Demon King recently tasked them with a mission. Belinda apologizes and requests that he return later. Uchimura notices her bag and follows through. Belinda is about to close the door when Uchimura grabs it and requests for a conversation instead. The jealous tsundere demon is annoyed because Uchimura is wildly hitting on another woman. Belinda tells him that she has stuff of her own to deal with. Uchimura apologizes for the inconvenience and finally drops a bombshell. The person before her is actually Sylphid herself. Belinda insists that she is her assistant. Uchimura cuts her off, stating that 3 things ruined her disguise. The first thing noticeable about Belinda is her glasses. She never wears such accessories. The second part is her name, as he handled the personnel chart with no mention of Belinda's name. The last part is rather obvious. It's actually because the Demon King revealed that Sylphid likes changing her appearance to slack off from work. Belinda is impressed and rude at the same time. She figures that he's rather competent in the head, and admits that she's indeed Sylphid. Uchimura questions why she is bothered by hiding her identity. Sylphid claims that she didn't want to be stuck with more work. Uchimura tells her about their grandiose task, requiring the creation of a magic tool for the demi-humans. Sylphid is in no mood to comply, because she's already made a device that achieves the same purpose. Uchimura is surprised to see an intriguing chunk of ore embedded with runestones. It allowed for the casting of numerous spells because it was powered by multiple stones. Sylphid claims that the product has been finished, and years upon years of research are down the drain. Uchimura celebrates because all they have to do now is replicate more. Sylphid loves his idea, and then presents him with the outstanding expenses that would be required for the creation of each stone. Sylphid is ready for mass production, as long as Uchimura can handle the price. Uchimura internalizes the Demon Lord's words when he considers Sylphid a mighty force. Sylphid argues that she only obliged according to the instructions she received. She didn't have to factor in the costs for it. Uchimura brainstormed a way to mass-produce a tool like this. Sylphid operated without a budget and spent her fortune on a tiny ball of gems. Uchimura swings for a different approach and asks if the device is capable of casting spells based on runestones. Since the multiple spells make it so expensive, Uchimura recommends using a singular type of spell instead. Instead of complicating the product, they could simplify it instead. Such an obvious thought apparently didn't cross her mind. Sylphid likes the idea and requests for his name. She likes his way of thinking and hands him a compliment. Sylphid draws a magic circle and states that they'll cook a device in a single night with his assistance. Uchimura screams, knowing how hard this is going to be. Almondra, on the other hand, is concerned that Uchimura is cheating on her. The following day, the 2 heavenly kings who were supposed to finish the product are both facing absolute dread. They did finish the product in a single night, but they had to sacrifice every minute of their sleep for it. What lies before them are the magical devices called rosmarin. These are limited to one kind of runestone, allowing for cheaper production and simplicity. Sylphid is excited because it can reproduce this kind of product with a low-grade supply of runestones. While she gloats about her genius, Uchimura is suffering from exhaustion. He did learn a lot about magic, so that's something. Sylphid wants to rush the testing process, but Uchimura can't take another step. She gives him an hour to rest, making him work harder than his corporate job. Uchimura tries to get food and rest. Almondra barges inside and notices that he's utterly wasted on the floor. She later scolds him for helping Sylphid without informing her. Uchimura doesn't know why he has to do all of that. An embarrassed Almondra reminds him that he gave her a runestone. Not only that, it's an S-rank runestone. Of all things, Sylphid manifests in her true form and requests Ulmundra's help to test a device. Ulmundra accepts in a heartbeat because of her magic proficiency. Suddenly, Orl also rushes in with a concerned request for Uchimura. Orl declares that there's been an emergency in the wake of a battle. Orl explains that a flock of cockatrices is approaching the kingdom and has begun its assault on the villages. The 4 heavenly kings are required to protect the remaining villages. Ulmundra wants to head out with Uchimura, but Orl drags her away, stating that her mission is to protect 3 villages on her own. Sylphid, on the other hand, is feeling a little evil and wants to test their device in a live demonstration. She brings him to an empty space that is going to be filled with cockatrices very soon. Tossing him one of the devices, Uchimura is told to test the product. Uchimura questions if they've done safety assurance because he's really not in the mood to lose an arm. He prepares the weapon and follows Sylphid's instructions to merge with the runestone. With command over the stone, he is able to cast a magic spell in his hand. Uchimura shocks himself because this is the first time he's ever used magic. Sylphid tells him to prepare for what is to come. The horde of cockatrices is rapidly approaching them. Sylphid wants him to annihilate all of them with the rose marin. Uchimura doesn't feel so confident, but goes over the risk. He throws the attack in the name of science. The cockatrices suffer significant damage, but they're far from being defeated. Uchimura prepares more spells to take down more and more of the monsters. He's confident in the product's ability to fight monsters without having any powers. That's exactly when the magic device fails to operate. One of the cockatrices is about to devour him. Uchimura tries to use the spell once more, but it fails to work at all. When Sylphid asks Uchimura why he stopped using magic, he reveals that the device is overloaded and eventually breaks. Sylphid wonders if it is because of the low-grade rune stone. Uchimura lays out the risk of using incineration magic in such an area. Sylphid recognizes the product's faults. Meanwhile, a bunch of beast men pop out of nowhere. Uchimura serves them fresh cockatrices meat that he cooked for the villagers. Uchimura was under the impression that demi-humans are all strong, but it turns out that weaker races like the Katsi people also exist. Sylphid is reminded of the reason she researched magical devices in the first place. She first lived in a demi-human village where no one could use magic. The village was stricken with poverty, and she couldn't do anything as a demon to help the poor souls. She tells Uchimura about her goal to help people who are incapable of helping themselves. Requesting his aid, Sylphid asks how they can make their product even more effective. Uchimura brainstorms a solution and sparks a brilliant idea. His idea is to stop using the rune stones in the first place. Uchimura requests the creation of 10 products similar to the one they tested. Sylphid explains that she is incapable of creating more without returning to the castle. Uchimura claims that the tool has always been perfect. The following day, he is ready to meet the onslaught of the evil cockatrices. As they stampede towards him, Uchimura is prepared to unleash the true force of the weapon. Uchimura chants the use of the weapon. A peculiar sound throws the cockatrices off balance. He picked up on this frequency each time he used the weapon. The cockatrices despised the sound, which didn't really require or consume any mana. The only requirement in this mission is to avoid casting a spell, as it would deter the monsters anyway. With the cockatrices retreating, the Katsi people are happy their village is safe. Both of the heavenly kings return to the Demon King's palace to report the result. The Demon King is shocked that Uchimura has been able to achieve both objectives with the help of Sylphid. Uchimura tells him that the device and its frequency are effective against boars and werewolves. This means that they can distribute it among the villagers to ward off magical beasts. The Demon King is impressed by his ability to spearhead a solution. Sylphid is told to mass-produce the product before distribution. Before leaving, Sylphid turns around and thanks Uchimura for assisting her in her goal. Not only that, he has also restored Sylphid's dream of helping the people. Sylphid throws him a magical device tuned for battle that can use up to 30 spells. It's a reward for Uchimura's efforts. The Demon King states that Uchimura has acquired yet another powerful ally. Instead of letting him catch a break for once, the Demon King tasks him with expanding their foreign trade. Since the demon army specializes in self-sustenance, its main export is wheat. However, with the merging process, they've found problems with exporting food, since it is required to sustain the population. This means that they need to import wheat as a consequence. Uchimura understands the task, and realizes that the country's most difficult hurdle is money. If they could cultivate a product that can generate revenue for the country, it would strengthen the country's financial situation. Knowing that he used to be a merchant in his previous life, the Demon King entrusts him with this task. He wants humans to travel abroad and negotiate with foreign leaders on his own. The remaining heavenly kings are supposed to guard the kingdom in the meantime. Uchimura understands his duty and wonders what kind of product he should sell. The demon king lends him a hand by answering his question. The product of their export will be the rose maron. Uchimura questions if it is truly right for them to export such an important tool of the army. The demon lord believes that it won't be possible for others to recreate the tool with ease. He wants to distribute the product instead of waiting for foreign countries to replicate it. He emphasizes that even in the wake of war, knowledge is something that cannot be stolen because it is an acquisition of individuals. The most powerful nations are those with competent knowledge. The demon lord wants to use people like Uchimura to develop even better technology. Uchimura believes they should start by approaching a wealthy country foremost to penetrate the market. The demon lord guides him to a country that neighbors the kingdom, a place called the Land of Gold, the Rampage Kingdom. The following day, Uchimura tells Ulmindra that he wants to go out shopping on the castle grounds. Ulmindra thinks for a moment and finally realizes that they're going out on an actual date. She waits for his arrival. A day previously, Ulmindra shared the idea with Oral. Ulmindra wanted to acquire proper gear for the battle, which is also known as the date. Oral advised her to wear something that fits Uchimura's preferences. An elegant outfit, for example, could strike a chord. Ulmindra waits for his arrival in embarrassment. Uchimura finally arrives and praises the outfit she's wearing. She tries to mask her feelings, but thanks Oral for recommending it. Their first destination is the bazaar. Uchimura wants to learn more about the market. A devastated Ulmindra realizes that she's being used as a toy for work purposes. Uchimura talks to one of the merchants and quickly realizes that the merchants have an information network of their own. He wonders if they should do something similar for the demon army. Uchimura questions if the merchant has a product belonging to the Rampage Kingdom. He showcases ornaments made of gold and advises Uchimura never to anger their king. This is because the king is a young and capable man, whose mood can be quick to spiral if the situation calls for it. The dude has a literal crocodile to get rid of his personal merchants. Uchimura concerningly asks if the merchant has any connections to sell products directly. Even though this is an impossible task, there is one merchant called the Butagarian. The beast is capable of finding products and selling them at higher prices. Butagarian has many informants and shares a good connection with the king, even though he has unpleasant rumors of his own. The merchant shares that the Butagarian is often called the Merchant of Death because of his reputation. Uchimura memorizes his name and requests to buy everything in gold. The goblets are the most expensive item, as they're made of jewels and silver. Uchimura casually wants to take a set without thinking twice. Ulmindra is annoyed that he's the only one having work on this shopping trip. Uchimura reveals that he actually got the goblet for Ulmindra. Ulmindra is struck with joy, because these goblets are usually for married couples. She's out here convinced that Uchimura is really interested in her. When Ulmindra asks Uchimura about his intentions regarding the other goblet, the man proudly boasts that he will sell the item. Ulmindra gets pissed and calls him an idiot for it. The following morning, Uchimura is dressed up in Elon Musk style to conduct proper business. With his preparations ready, Uchimura's next stop is the Rampage Kingdom. Arriving in the vicinity of the Rampage Kingdom, Uchimura greets the king inside the castle. He's done everything with preparedness, but now he needs a really good excuse for meeting the king. The young king meets his presence. Uchimura starts off the greeting in a professional manner, but it seems the king is already familiar with his game. And I mean that literally, he knows each and every bit about Uchimura's background, thanks to his informants. The king questions why Uchimura is only showing up now, when he made an appointment months ago. The king gets infuriated with Uchimura's attitude, and he bows down for an apology. Uchimura thinks that this situation could end up terrible for him. With an explosive opening like that, the young king has made himself appear more powerful on their battlefield. The king inquires about Uchimura's purpose for a visit, knowing that he wouldn't just arrive for introductory purposes. Uchimura capitalizes on the opportunity and reveals that he has brought some gifts. In a flash, the king incinerates the gifts with his thunderous power. He deems it an insulting gift, but it seems that Uchimura's strategy was exactly to lure the king. He reveals an object of interest, the same product that has become the pride of the demon army. The king insults the quality of the product at first, but Uchimura reveals that it has the ability to drive away magical beasts with its frenzy. Uchimura notes that it's possible for magical beasts to slow down the mining process in the Land of Gold, which is why a product of this caliber could prove to be effective. King Rampage realizes that Uchimura is aware of the rock golems that greatly threaten the miners, driving them away from the riches. Uchimura manages to convince the king to see the benefit of their product. The king puts his theory to the test with his own 2 eyes. Remember the crocodile that the merchant mentioned? Yeah, he calls out his little pet for the test drive. The crocodile is about to attack Uchimura when he utilizes the power of the device. The crocodile is greatly repelled by the strange device and instead proceeds to attack the king. Uchimura uses a spell to protect the king, but before he can, the king obliterates the crocodile with a column of thunder. King Rampage is genuinely interested in the effectiveness of the product, as is Uchimura himself. He thinks that it's an act of bravery for him to approach the king as an equal and even bother to help him in danger. Convinced, the king accepts the rose maron product that the demon kingdom has developed. In fact, the king wants each and every last bit of his stock in return for mountains of gold. Uchimura was sent to the Rampage Kingdom for a partnership and managed to convince the king. King Rampage actually likes Uchimura and requests 100 more orders of the rose maron product. Oral relays the news that the king has purchased a total of 300 rose marons so far. The price of just one is considered 500,000 gold, a hefty price which has landed them a total of 150 million gold sold in a week. Uchimura explains that he used a psychological technique called the anchoring effect. In uncertainty, people quickly make decisions based on the information available. Since their product is completely new and has no set price standard, they could set their cost to anything. However, it was necessary for their buyer to agree to the price. That's why Uchimura presented the king with expensive goods before showing him the actual magical device, persuading him to think that the final product was extremely expensive. That is how he easily agreed to the final price. Uchimura learned this technique in the previous world by an expert salesman. With more and more orders coming for them, Uchimura reflects that the land of gold will stop ordering the rose maron as soon as they have enough of them. However, they will obviously return for replacements when their mana runs out. This, in turn, will allow for a replenishable purchase and a consistent revenue increase. Everything was proceeding smoothly until a month passed. Uchimura was shocked to learn that the kingdom had cancelled the order. It is revealed that King Rampage found a second seller offering the same product for half the price. Uchimura is stunned because no one could have come up with a product like their own. He questions how it would be possible, as it's way more complex than creating a typical rune stone. That is when the dots start to connect. Uchimura shudders at the thought of the black market. Knowing that they've distributed the product to the villagers, it's possible that they've started selling the product to the black market. Almondra barges in to inform him that their rose maron has stopped working for good. In fact, all of the villagers have issued their complaints. Uchimura observes the situation and wonders if someone else dug up the buried rose maron. That night, Uchimura and Almondra were anticipating the bandits coming. Uchimura questions who hired them in the first place. Instead of answering, he is met with an attack. But thankfully, Uchimura's bodyguard and waifu take care of the problem for him and launch them away. Uchimura stops her and allows the bandits to run away on purpose. In the next scene, it is revealed that the Butagarian is behind, producing the invention of the Demon King's army for a product that is half its price. King Rampage is intrigued and wonders how he managed to pull off such a feat. The Merchant of Death, with a sinister smile, claims that it is classified information, hinting that he's the one behind the scenes.